Hey everybody, I just pulled up to the Tesla Supercharger. I'm at 38%. The purpose of this charging stop is sort of, I guess, to demonstrate like a splash and dash. Um, as I get older and go on road trips, I feel like, the dream of pulling in at like 5% or 10% has sort of died with my bladder capacity. So, the having to stop at an earlier supercharger at 30 to 40% and then charge up to like 70 or 80 is kind of more in line with reality at this point. So, and also when I first took delivery of this car, my first charging stop was actually like a 40 to 80, and I was pretty impressed with the curve. I think it held like 150 or above 140 at least, higher than expected. So today we're going to see kind of what to expect if you just need a quick pit stop and you want to charge while you're doing it. Just a few notes as we go through this charging session. It is 91 degrees outside. I believe I had the cabin auto climate set, but low fan speed. I don't recall there ever being any issues with my comfort in the car. I stayed in the car the whole time. I could have probably turned it up to medium, but it didn't feel uncomfortable. I could ever so slightly hear the cooling system like near the firewall, but it was just like a really dull whine. It's insanely quiet compared to my Gen 1 R1T, and based on what I've read, probably compared to Gen 2 R1 vehicles. So very happy with the cooling system. I want to make a note. I think I recorded a section of this earlier, and I mentioned that I don't think the car would ever have requested 600 amps. I'm not really confident in that. I think the car was probably would have requested more than 500 at least, and since Tesla is limited to 500 amps for non-Teslas right now, I do think we were kind of station limited, so to speak, in that sense. Maybe the first few percentage points. I think though that we were later sort of rewarded from a thermal perspective for that, because compared to some of the charging curves I've seen, like from State of Charge, they dropped off a little earlier than this one does. Let me pull up, for example. Yeah, so Tom's test, 10 to 80, it tapered below 50% at around 55%. And if you stick with this video, you'll notice, I believe we go till around 60% before we drop below 150. Yeah, and we're at 63%. We're still fighting around that 150 mark, and we finally dropped down to sub 150 at 63%. So, compared to the earlier plug-in, I think the thermal system is definitely, it doesn't have that accumulated heat buildup, so we're able to, push a little deeper into the charge before it starts derating. But from here on, I mean, it's just a really steady decline down to the point where I just decide it's time to unplug, for this theoretical splash and dash test. And then coming up here is where I just decide to call it at 75%. Once we drop off this much, I feel like might as well move on to the next charger. And of course, I've probably returned from the bathroom and had my snack. So, that's a pretty quick stop, solid charge session. And yeah, hope you guys agree. Yeah, let me know what you guys think about the charging curve for the quote unquote splash and dash. To me, I kind of feel like it's a great curve for running in, getting a snack, going to the bathroom, and then you're back to the car and you're maybe around 70%. And it seems like the best time to unplug is right after 70, maybe 74, 75, because it's starting to really taper as you get near the top of the pack. But I, personally feel like this is a good result for a 400 volt car, and about as best as you can expect. Some caveats: this is a Tesla supercharger, so we're not getting the 600 amp that the car really is capable of handling. Now, plugging in at 38%, I don't believe that the car would ever request 600 amps, but I could be wrong. I haven't really had that much experience with the charging on this car. This is my second fast charging session. Yeah, I mean, more road trips, more tests to come for sure. But let me know what you think. Appreciate it.